Well, here we are again. James Gunn has inevitably ticked off at least half the internet by simply announcing some news for his new Superman movie because we've now got a photo of the infamous superdog Krypto and Superman. And I think the photo is pretty neat. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because as these things go, when news comes out for this movie, people are either really excited or really mad. And overall, I've been fairly pleased by what I've seen so far. And another thing I did want to talk about is Harrison Ford because he's done an interview and he said something very interesting regarding Hollywood and movie stars. And I think, as usual, he's just continuing to be the grumpy, curmudgeony, awesome, real one of an old man that he is. And so I just wanted to touch on this article for a minute, but let's go ahead and dig into it. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, throw us some likes and some comments, and even more so, go visit criticalist.com or download us in the app stores, Android or Apple. We're an entertainment reviewing platform for reviewing movies and entertainment, but this is a place where your views are what's most important. It isn't about critics, it's about what real people think. So go ahead, drop a review, and let us know what you have been watching lately. So let's go ahead and move on into what James Gunn has announced here. Excuse me, I'm a little bit raspy today, to say the least, and my entire family, or well, extended family, whatever you want to consider it, is all sick. So I'm a little worried. So if I just vanish off the face of the planet, it's because I've caught whatever plague it is that the rest of them have. But hopefully that's not going to be the case because I'm tired of being sick and such. So anyways, on to Superman and Krypto. Here's the first look photo here. Now, when I first saw this, I was a little curious because I was like, why does it look a little off? It looks a little weird. Something's not quite right. And the first thing you need to know if you see this photo circulating the internet is that it's actually a motion photo that he's shared on X. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot over to there to let everybody kind of see what he's shared here. So here's the photo actually in motion, and it makes sense why it looked a little off. Now, obviously, the lighting and such is catered towards probably what they've done in production, and they're still working on this. But this was just something that James Gunn wanted to share, and I think more importantly, the subject matter behind this post and what he shared, it shows a little bit of light into the creation of this movie and what's going on with it. But just first impressions here, I think it looks pretty neat. And I was a little confused at first because Krypto's ears is kind of sticking up over here. And obviously he is a little semi-mangy looking, which I actually kind of like. And they're going with that white dog classic look, which I think is really neat. And everything about this movie kind of screams classic Superman to me, but just with a little bit of a twist. And even more than anything, just from this photo, it screams just kind of fun and light and more playful. And I think juxtaposed next to something like, the Henry Cavill movies, that makes sense for him to make this kind of a pivot. And it makes me excited about this, and also kind of shows to some degree that he's probably not leaning into the James Gunn edgelordy kind of vibes. This looks more fun and playful, which I think can be smart and a good move for Superman and the type of character that he is. Now, granted, I am not someone that hates Man of Steel. I love those movies. My son is literally named Clark because of watching Man of Steel and loving that movie so much. And I wasn't even as big of a Superman fan before I saw that movie. I liked Superman fairly well, watched Lois and Clark back in the day. And I mean, I liked Superman well enough, but I was more of a Marvel guy. That was just kind of my deal growing up. But this photo here, I think it's pretty neat. And the ear sticking up is what caught me off guard, because at first I thought the dog had like some kind of mohawk or something. And so I had to really like zoom in for a minute and get it on a bigger screen so I could figure out what was going on. But I'm going to go ahead and read what James had to say here. He says, Krypto arrives on screens in Superman this summer. Krypto was inspired by our dog, Ozu, who we adopted shortly after I started writing Superman. Ozu, who came from a hoarding situation in a backyard with 60 other dogs and never knew human beings, was problematic to say the least. He immediately came in and destroyed our home, our shoes, our furniture. He even ate my laptop. It took a long time before he would even let us touch him. I remember thinking, gosh, how difficult would life be if Ozu had superpowers? And thus Krypto came into the script and changed the shape of the story. Ozu was changing my life. As Ozu was changing my life. With better time to debut the not so good good boy, Krypto, then adopt a shelter dog month. So I guess that this is one of the many months that we've now adopted as a holiday month. That's kind of whatever for me. I mean, it's an admirable thing. I'm all for adopting dogs if that's your deal. And I mean, I love dogs. I have a dog that's fantastic. He's a little shithead, but I love him to death. And so, I think that this is neat. And those of us that are pet owners and especially dog owners, I think that there is something to kind of garner from this. And it's neat that he's kind of imprinting a little bit of this experience that he had, and it adds an extra layer to this character of Krypto. And I'm interested to see how the diehard fans are going to respond to this, because this is one of the things where I am very much against this whole coming after the fans thing that Hollywood and critics and all sorts of people have adapted lately, to where, anything fans have a complaint with, they just come after them. But with things like this, I tend to be more flexible. I don't have to be super rigid on every last thing about the heroes that I like from comic books. For me, it's more of just like, is this a very tethered canon moment that they are changing, or is this some wild feature to a character that they are just making so different that it completely changes who and what this character is? Now, I don't know how many people are that diehard about Krypto and his behavior, and so this is going to be interesting. I think this could be a cool addition and could add to some fun playfulness of Superman having this kind of more disobedient dog, but also the man's best friend aspect as well, where it's like, I still love him even though he's a little bit of a turd. And it's kind of the same thing with, like I mentioned, with my dog. And it is a very common thing with dogs in general, is most of them aren't perfect creatures, especially when they're younger. So I think that this is fun and it seems really neat. And I'm kind of just curious and excited to see what Gunn does with this version and this incarnation of Superman. And the more and more I see personally, I'm actually fairly excited about it. And we won't know for about another year, because apparently he's giving them a whole year to work on production because he wants to get this perfect. And I think that that's a good move. So everything about this to me is positive and looks pretty good. I'm a fan, but I definitely want to know your thoughts below. And just go ahead. Let me know what you think. Are you one of those people that hates this, thinks it's a terrible idea and they shouldn't do it? Or is this like, hey, I'll wait and hold out my judgment until the movie hits? And I think that that's the best thing to do with this sort of thing. And honestly, with some of the decisions that I've been seeing him making, it almost seems like things that should probably pull in a wider audience and more people are going to enjoy, where it's like somebody who, like my wife, who's not a big diehard superhero fan, who I can sometimes get to go to these movies, sometimes not. This is the type of thing where, like, you add this playful dog element and it's from the comics. This is something that we've never seen in live action on the big screen in this kind of a way. I think it's going to bring in a new type of audience to do things like this if it's marketed right, and word of mouth is good for everything that he's done in the movie, especially after it comes out, and the early people have seen it, folks like me who are going to see this easily like opening night or as soon as humanly possible. So yeah, I don't know, I'm excited. I think this is cool, but let me know your thoughts down below. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was Harrison Ford. And so this article touches on a little bit of a hot spot with comic book fans and MCU fans and just all of that. But I think that there's more to dig into here with what Harrison Ford had to say. Now, the article's headline here is Harrison Ford says avoiding Marvel roles is silly. When MCU films provide good experiences for an audience, calls the death of movie stars rubbish. Now, the last little bit there, I'm not sure I totally agree with, but at the same time, when you actually read more into what he had to say, I can kind of get behind it. Now, this first part is what I actually really liked here, and this is a very old school movie star response. Now, if you've noticed, movie stars over the past probably 10 to 15 plus years have become extraordinarily narcissistic. They like to attack fans. They like to attack just pretty much anybody and everybody. They're all opinionated about something, and they want you to know what that opinion is, and more than anything, they want to shove it down your throat because they have just become overtly just political and motivated by different means that just don't seem to work well with the industry and regularly tank these people's careers, which is why I kind of lean more into the death of the movie star thing. But I think that it's connected to something a little bit different than what he's talking about here. So basically, he did this interview with GQ magazine, and what he was referring to is the fact that he's going to be in the next Captain America movie, Captain America Brave New World, and he's going to be playing Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk. He's actually replacing the previous actor. So what it says here is, I mean, this is the Marvel universe, and I'm just there on a weekend pass. I'm a sailor new to this town. Ford said about the MCU debut. I understand the appeal of other kinds of films besides the kind we made in the 80s and 90s. I don't have anything general to say about it. It's the condition our condition is in, and things change and morph and go on. We're silly if we sit around regretting the change and don't participate. I'm participating in a new part of the business that, for me at least, I think is really producing some good experiences for an audience, and I enjoy that. And you know what? I think that response is absolutely phenomenal, and it's what we should be hearing from a lot of these actors of late, because that's the thing. These people, I think a lot of these folks take their jobs way too seriously. Now, I understand, you are taking part in art, and what you are doing is part of an art form, but also it is a business. It is a thing that makes money. And if you are making things that people like and enjoy, and it's not too taxing on you, and it's a fun job, then why not do it quite often? And there used to be this, one for them, one for me kind of a theory within Hollywood and directors and actors, where it's like, look, I'm going to do one for them, which is the fans. I'm going to do, my big tentpole movie. And then I'm going to do one for me, my little weird art house thing that might or might not be a hit. And that used to be kind of how Hollywood actors operated, but they don't seem to be doing that anymore, which is, to me, a real issue, and is part of what's hurting the industry and hurting these people as far as their careers, because they just come out and tell fans that what they like is stupid and they shouldn't be enjoying it, and so on and so forth. Now, granted, I think the problem here with Harrison Ford and this movie specifically is he might have picked the wrong movie to be a part of, because this is part of the middle point Marvel failure group, I think. Now, a lot of us seem to think that Marvel is kind of fixing and course correcting and righting the ship, where we had very good Marvel for those of us that liked it. It was excellent all the way up until, Endgame and through all of that. But then it's gone downhill really hard of late. And it seems like this is part of that after guard of the crew that has been working over at Marvel. And I'm worried that, unfortunately, he's going to be part of a really crappy movie. And it sounds like test screenings aren't doing good. This movie's been through infinite reshoots. Everything about it just sounds bad. So I hate it for him, because his point is not wrong, that Marvel films up until a point had been really loved and everybody was enjoying it all, and he's just like, hey, look, this is a job, it seems fun, I'm going to play around in it, and I'm a weekend warrior in this series, and I'll just do this for funsies, and I just want to take part in something that people are enjoying. And that makes sense, and I think that is a really good perspective to take. And a lot of people have crapped on Marvel movies, like Tarantino and other folks, and what they bring up here is they say some directors like Quentin Tarantino have claimed that the rise of Marvel has contributed to the death of the movie star, as actors like Chris Evans are more associated with their superhero characters than they are as movie stars. And in all honesty, I don't think that that's wildly off, but it just depends on what that person is capable of doing outside of that character that they have become kind of branded with. Now, Ford says that he thinks that that's rubbish. What he says is, I don't think the question is whether or not there are any movie stars. There's wonderful actors coming up every day, Ford told GQ. Whether or not they become movie stars is really not the point. If movies need stars, they will find them. I've never fucking understood being a movie star. I'm an actor. I tell stories. I'm part of a group of people who work together, collaborate on telling stories. I'm an assistant storyteller. That's what I am. And that's the thing, man. This is old school class. This dude, he gets it. He understands his job. He understands the business he is in. And he is just telling it how it is. He doesn't mince words anymore. He says what he thinks, and I like that. And this is how a lot of movie stars used to talk, but this has been lost within Hollywood, and it has become this narcissistic, psychotic thing where all of these people in the industry think that every single one of them are just a special snowflake, and you need to like every last thing about them. And not only that, but you need to agree with them, and they're just only going to do what they want to do, and everybody else be damned. And that's the thing, is he's used to how it is. And the thing is if this mentality and this type of a mindset with all of this does not kind of continue to some degree, I do think that it will lead to the death of the movie star per se as a term. But unless there's just a huge shift within Hollywood. But everything about this just did really interest me, and I like what he had to say here, and I just think that he's a fairly cool dude, and I like that he doesn't mince his words, and he's just pretty straightforward and speaks it how it is. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on what Harrison had to say here, and as far as everything else, I should be back tomorrow for the news, or possibly even a review. I'm tossing around an idea of doing something a little bit different and mixing it up tomorrow, so we will see what I end up putting out. But obviously, comment, like, let me know your thoughts. I want to hear everything about Superman and Krypto, and if that is just a terrible idea and a terrible photo or not. And then with Harrison Ford here too. And I will see you back again tomorrow. Everybody take it easy. Later.